A shocking love story turned nightmare. What seemed like the perfect couple on social media hid a chilling secret. A brutal murder staged to fool the world, a grieving husband turned prime suspect, and the digital clues that unraveled his lies. How did Babis go from devoted husband to cold-blooded killer? Stay tuned as we dive into the twisted case of Caroline Crouch, the crime that shook a nation and left the world in disbelief. Caroline Crouch was just 15 when she met a 27-year-old pilot named Babis. He charmed her by flying his helicopter over her school, winning her heart. They eventually eloped and got married. What seemed like a fairy tale turned tragic when, on May 11, 2021, everything fell apart. In the early hours of that day, Babis and Caroline, who were living in a house near Athens, were attacked by 3 masked intruders. The men tied Babis up, blindfolded him with duct tape, and demanded money. Caroline, only 19 and now a mother, was caught in a nightmare. Her baby daughter was woken up by the chaos. The intruders threatened the family, asking where the cash was hidden. Caroline had no idea that this robbery would lead to her death. Caroline's journey began when she was born in Athens, but moved to the island of Athens as a child, where she grew up loving the beach, swimming, and scuba diving. She met Babis in 2017 during a local event. At the time, he was a pilot, and she was just a teenager. They married in 2019 and started building their dream home. Caroline's parents even gifted her 50,000 euros, and the couple had an additional 10,000 euros stashed in their home. In Greece, it wasn't uncommon for people to keep large amounts of cash at home due to fears about the banks. Unfortunately, that made them a target. When the robbers demanded the money, Babis told them it was hidden in a Monopoly game box. The thieves took the cash and then searched for more valuables, stealing jewelry as well. Things took a dark turn when the intruders put a gun to the baby's head. Caroline's screams filled the house. Babis, bound and blindfolded, struggled but couldn't help. At some point, he passed out from lack of air. When he regained consciousness, the men were gone, and the house was a mess. His baby was crying beside Caroline, who lay lifeless on the bed. First responders arrived to find the scene of horror, a ransacked home. A dead puppy hung by its leash, and Caroline's lifeless body. Babis, still tied up, was in shock. Police quickly started their investigation, piecing together what had happened. The intruders were believed to be professional criminals who had been watching the couple. They broke in through a basement window and even killed the family dog before entering the bedroom. After getting the cash and jewelry, they smothered Caroline with a pillow. Despite some resistance marks on her body, there was no evidence of sexual assault. Though Babis described the attackers, leading to a sketch of one of them, the police were left with few clues. The criminals took 10,000 euros in cash and 20,000 euros worth of jewelry. Investigators believed this was a planned attack, as the robbers seemed to know the couple had hidden money. Speculation swirled about why Caroline was murdered. Was it because she resisted, possibly using her kickboxing skills? Did the intruders panic when she screamed for her baby? Although these were only guesses, one thing was clear. The attack was calculated, and someone close to the couple might have been involved. The police believed the robbers might have received an inside tip. They reviewed security footage from nearby homes and businesses and spotted a dark vehicle and a motorcycle circling the couple's house the morning of the murder. 3 days after the tragedy, Caroline was laid to rest on the Greek island of Athens, where she grew up. At her funeral, Babis tearfully spoke about how lucky he felt to have known and been loved by Caroline, even though their daughter would now grow up without her mother. While the funeral took place, police pulled over a car near the Bulgarian border during a routine stop. Inside was a 36-year-old Georgian man named Georgi, carrying a fake passport. Georgi had a history of violent break-ins, some of which occurred near Babis and Caroline's home. His past crimes bore a striking resemblance to the one that took Caroline's life. He also matched the sketch Babis had provided of one of the intruders. Convinced they had their man, police arrested him. However, after days of intense questioning, even using force, Georgi denied knowing Caroline, and the evidence against him fell apart. He was eventually cleared, and 3 police officers involved in the case were demoted. With Georgi no longer a suspect, investigators shifted their focus to a local Albanian crime gang. narrowing their suspect list from 100 to just 10. They even showed Babis mugshots, but progress was slow, and the public grew frustrated. Tension rose as crime rates spiked, and fear spread in Athens. Even with a large cash reward on the table, no one came forward with useful information. The case dragged on, with no DNA, fingerprints, or solid leads. Caroline's family continued to hope for justice, while Babis became a public face of the investigation, supporting the police and speaking to the media to keep the case alive. He was also active on social media, thanking supporters and answering questions. Finally, on June 17th, over a month after Caroline's death, a breakthrough occurred. At a memorial service on Haralambos, detectives quietly approached Babis and asked him to come to Athens to identify a suspect. Babis agreed, unaware of what was coming next. By then, investigators had pieced together new clues that didn't match Babis's story. For instance, the basement window he claimed the intruders used was too small for the large man he described. Neighbors also reported hearing nothing unusual that night, except for the family's puppy crying. The lack of fingerprints or DNA raised more doubts, and suspicions grew about why the intruders supposedly tied up Babis while brutally attacking Caroline. Babis initially claimed that intruders removed the memory card from the security camera, but data revealed that it was actually taken out hours before the supposed break-in. More damning was evidence from Caroline's smartwatch, which tracked her pulse. At 3:58 a.m., she was asleep, but by 4:05 a.m., her heart rate spiked, indicating severe stress. By 4:11 a.m., her heart had stopped earlier than when Babis claimed the murder occurred. Meanwhile, his own fitness app showed he was moving around during the time he claimed to be tied up. Suspicion grew when investigators learned that Caroline had been trying to book a hotel for herself and her daughter on the night she died. Text messages showed she was considering leaving Babis. Their relationship, which started as a whirlwind romance, had become toxic. When they met, Babis was charismatic, wealthy, and even won her attention by flying a helicopter over her school. They soon married, but behind the facade of a perfect relationship, Caroline struggled. Her diary revealed doubts, conflict, and her desire to leave Babis, even as she felt trapped by her pregnancy and later by their child. Over time, Babis became increasingly controlling. Isolating Caroline, he discouraged traditional celebrations like a big wedding and limited her financial independence. Caroline's diary entries revealed deep emotional turmoil. She wrote of her love for Babis despite the pain he caused her. Yet, she stayed because she couldn't bear for their daughter to grow up without both parents. As police delved deeper, they found further inconsistencies in Babis's story. Caroline's final hours were marked by heated arguments and distressing text exchanges between her and Babis. Confronted with overwhelming evidence, Babis was brought in for questioning, and after 8 hours, he broke down. However, his confession was riddled with lies. He claimed that an argument over their daughter spiraled out of control. Babis painted Caroline as the aggressor, alleging that she physically attacked him, leading him to lose control and strangle her. After killing Caroline, Babis staged the scene to look like a robbery, going so far as to kill their dog, Roxy, and place their child next to Caroline's body. He then tied himself up, faking the break-in to throw off investigators. In his confession, he expressed regret, but tried to justify his actions by blaming Caroline, claiming her behavior drove him to commit the murder. Babis's attempt to cover up the crime, dubbed the murder that fooled the world, ultimately unraveled due to the carelessness with which he left key evidence intact. In May 2022, he was found guilty of premeditated murder, lying to authorities, obstructing justice, and even animal abuse. His conviction marked the end of a chilling case that exposed the darkness hidden behind a seemingly picture-perfect life. If you found this case as haunting as we did, make sure to hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the darkest corners of true crime. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.